Top crossovers in the 2018 NBA season. A crossover dribble can be shifty and explosive, and can humiliate a player who happens to run into one. Over the years, we've seen that the move can be used to create a space between the defenders, and we've also seen players who have achieved a complete mastery over it. If you want the names of some players who are quite adept at this technique, there's Allen Iverson, Jamal Crawford, and Kyrie Irving, among various others who are able to do it. So, why don't we take a look at how they do it? Iverson crosses up Jordan twice. When it comes to crossovers, the first player that comes into anyone's mind is Allen Iverson. He seems to have complete control over the move ever since the mid to late 90s. Although it's been over 18 years since he unleashed that ankle breaker on Jordan, it seems to remain fresh in the memories of people, even today. When MJ's on the list, he's the one that always seems to be talked about. However, things were quite different in the match that was played on March 12th of 1996, as the game of basketball seemed to shift to a whole new era. From time immemorial, it's always been every kid's dream, be it any sport, to go up against their favorite player, and Iverson was no different, as he always wished that one day he could face off against Jordan one day, ever since he was a kid. He always used to tell his friends that if he were to ever get on the stage, he would do his best by using his best move. However, one of the craziest things to ever happen to him was that he indeed did face Jordan in a match. He tried to do a crossover dribble on him, but Jordan almost blocked it. He then tried to hit him with his best move, and he was still able to block it. That's how good a defensive player Jordan just was, as stated by Iverson. Irving dazzles against Knight. Brandon Knight was going through tough times in the months of February and March back in 2013. He got dunked on by DeAndre Jordan. But before that, he got crossed up by Kyrie Irving, who happened to play a series of dribbles against the Milwaukee Bucks guard, all during the Rising Stars Challenge. This rivalry was nothing new. In fact, it had brewed up ever since their prep days in high school, when they each wanted nothing less than to be the #1 spot for the point guard in the 2010 recruiting class of high school basketball. After this tussle, however, it was pretty evident who the winner was. With this, Irving not only decimated Knight, but he also went on to become one of the elite ball handlers in the NBA. Besides this, he has a wide range of other superb moves that are worth a mention. Iverson makes Daniels fall twice. Who would have guessed that Iverson's crossover on former NBA point guard Antonio Daniels would have come during the peak of his ankle-breaking career? It's already hard that he did the crossover on him, but doing it twice is something phenomenal. That's one of the reasons why this move was to instantly become one of the greatest crossovers in history.
Well, look at that. Look at the crowd. Look at the
And not to mention, a highlight that's worth showing any number of times. Tim Hardaway, the crossover god. The real credit for creating the first crossover ever should be given to Tim Hardaway. Called the killer crossover, what made it all the deadlier was that he even managed to develop a counter crossover for it. What he would do was simply throw it back between his legs and go for it. The case of Jamal Crawford leaving Wesley Matthews grabbing at air. The move became so deadly that Matthews had no idea what he was doing. That is, whether he got pushed, heard the whistle, or saw Antoine Tyler's spirit come down out of the stands, it seemed as though he was embarrassed and needed some sort of excuse. Stephen Curry sends Neil Gary to the doghouse. People have forgotten some of Stephen Curry's slickest handlers, perhaps because he's probably the best shooter out there in the NBA. Now, he may not be as fast as some of the others out there, but he certainly knows how to handle the ball well, in that he often catches those defenders who try to play over him. The East backcourt reserves, DeMar DeRozan and Bradley Beal. DeRozan was the third choice among the East guards, just behind Oladipo and Irving. He was officially selected as a starter. After years of criticism he received on changing his game tactics to modernize his offense by reducing relying on ball pounding and tough twos, the Toronto Raptors' lead scorer has posted several career highs, including true shooting percentage and, not to mention, assist rate. Although his defense has not been very good of late, his steady offense as a top 5 attack has been crucial for the Raptors' status among the East top teams. Before DeRozan, the Raptors relied quite heavily on Kyle Lowry, and he was a must-have all-star. This season, however, the roles seem to have reversed. However, there isn't much to celebrate for the Wizards, at least not yet. As they continue to lose to opponents of a lesser caliber, Beal has done enough for them so as to get an all-star approval. Nevertheless, he's been healthier and more efficient than John Wall, and has always got the Washington Wizards a net rating of 9.4 points whenever he's on the court. He would normally shoot three-pointers, but has improved upon himself steadily so that he would have other shot choices. He's had a career average of 5.1 free throw attempts in a single game. Not to mention that he has a defensive utility that comes to be higher than most of the other Tier 2 backcourt candidates of the East. This is for the fact that he's able to credibly guard both the spots, but also is one who likes to pick his spots on that end more often. East frontcourt reserves, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, and Kevin Love. Horford became a strong starter as he brought success to the Celtics. Not to mention, he played a key role in the Celtics' league-leading defense, and got involved in the game with a high level of offense. Now, although he might not be a true high scorer, Horford's mobility and distribution, not to mention his IQ, diligence, and the ability to switch, have all made him a valuable player nonetheless. This impact goes double ways to earn him a reserve nod. Porzingis' scoring and efficiency seem to have declined in recent times, and his impact in New York always getting off to a hot start. So, they may be dropping him from the All-Star squad, and he may end up being a reserve. At 22 years of age, he's a top 2018 most improved player in the making. Not to mention, an everlasting future All-Star. He seems to have become a top scorer leading the leagues in blocks. Although he may not be a player with a key role, just as some of the others, such as Philadelphia's Joel Embiid is, Porzingis' presence alone can help improve the New York Nets' rating by a staggering 6 points. People have not been complaining for months over Love's defense, so these may not exactly be the brightest of times for him. Also, there have been reports that he'd been subjected to internal locker room skepticism over his recent loss to the Thunder. Now, Cleveland may have been far less consistent than they actually should have, but Love nevertheless had been LeBron James' sidekick through all those months between Kyrie Irving's exit and Isaiah Thomas's return to the court. Kevin Love is said to have made more threes than any of the elite guards, not to mention 40% on more than 5 attempts per game, and his top 5 offense has been crucial to the team. East wildcards, Kyle Lowry and Andre Drummond. It can be given for a fact that Kyle Lowry's numbers, be it scoring, usage, FG percentage, or FTA, have been down this season, although the damage isn't much, as stated by stats. In fact, less has been all the more for him. This is because of multiple late-season breakdowns from the past years. Lowry, however, continues to rank among the top guns, and his recent willingness to decrease his touch time from 6.9 minutes per game last season to 5.4 minutes per game this season has helped Toronto go a long way in diversifying its attack and making better use of its deep roster. So, smart sacrifices like those made by Lowry should be rewarded and not punished. Although the 31-year-old's most prolific days are well behind him now. Miami's Goran Dragic and Andre Drummond of the Detroit Pistons are 2 very different players on 2 very different teams, and are headed in 2 different directions. Individually though, Dragic has been very good, but not great.
15 and 20-20 game.
The Slovenian guard has been nonetheless an important driver for Miami's number 4 spot in the East. On the other hand, Drummond seems to have drastically improved on his free throw shooting, which is giving Detroit a strong start. And yet, Drummond is still the league's leading rebounder, who's been helping the Pistons retain their spot among the league's top 10. And to add to all of that, Drummond has even managed to triple his assist rates, thereby improving his overall offense that has helped compensate for the perimeter injury issues that the Pistons have had to face. Luke Rittenauer slams to the ground face down trying to guard Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook's tornado seems to have gotten tangled up with Luke Rittenauer's feet, breaking his ankle, in what seemed like a pretty violent fail by Rittenauer trying to guard Westbrook. Ming in no man's land. Yao Ming should definitely not have been guarding Stephen Marbury all by himself. After all, he is a rookie and he just entered the world of American basketball, so he's never really experienced a killer crossover. The move did not come as all that great, but was enough to tumble Ming over, causing a riot on the bench of the Suns. But things seem to have worked out in the long run, and Marbury has gone on to have a successful post-NBA career in China. Williams' blows by Payton. This was a rather disgusting move that even the Glove, who is the greatest defensive point guard of all time, and a well-known trash talker at that, looked back and had a smile. One other thing was that Jason Williams, who tried to trip him, failed in his attempt and made him look like the Pistol Pete's second coming. Darren Williams turns Tony Douglas all the way around. Darren Williams has made one of the greatest crossover moves ever, and this comes due to the way he leans and puts his whole body into it. Wade forces Snow to take a tumble. It was his final NBA season in 2008, and Eric Snow was somehow assigned to the task of guarding Dwayne Wade, but found himself on the wrong side of a rather nasty crossover. Even to this day, Snow is said to believe that Wade pushed him off, forcing on him a clumsy fall. The video was replayed over and over again when Snow became a studio analyst for NBA TV, and it was quite funny to see him say how Wade pushed him off. Everyone's had their fair share of crossovers and pushovers, and the NBA's no stranger to them. Nonetheless, these were some of the most epic crossovers ever to have taken place in NBA games. What with some of the greatest players finding themselves in a crossover with other players of equal caliber, these clashes have turned games into exciting ones nevertheless.